Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like that's all we can say about the Pistons. Do you want to move on to the best team in this tier, the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Yeah, the feisty Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I was looking at this, and I
Feisty.
yeah, I think they might actually have a chance to be decent, which, this might come back and bite me to say that, but I kind of like the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I kind of
Like
do
I
too.
think I think they kind of have some
They
of the top.
almost have too many guys. They almost have too many wings that need to play.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Um okay, just to start off, I think the most sneaky underrated player of last season is Colin Sexton.
Yeah,
And
I like Sexton.
I
I
was
liked him in the
looking
draft
at
too.
yeah, I had him listed down as like one of my players to watch for this season. I was kind of looking at his stats last year, and they're really promising. Granted, that team didn't win at all and was like probably the second worst team in the NBA last year. But in terms of just Sexton himself, he had a 27.2 usage rate, which is really comparable to players like Siakam and like Drew Holiday, just like like primary offense options, right? So he's like getting the ball a lot. They're using him a lot. He had averaged 20.8 points per game, 3 assists per game, and 3 rebounds a game, and a steal a game. So it's like he's scoring on a bad team. So like, what does that even mean? He's not passing the ball. It's whatever, which I think normally is a problem. Like we can't really take away a lot from that. But I will say that Garland seems like the kind of guy that would be the actual point guard in this. Like Sexton kind of seems like for a lack of a better, like he seems like the Jalen Brown of this situation. Like a good, solid offensive player that can create shots for himself and is pretty efficient with it. He had shot 85% from the free throw line, 38% from the 3-point line, and he plays solid defense. And Garland kind of seems like a good point guard that has high end potential that could become, like the guy who sets the table up for everyone. And I know this is a bit unfair that we're doing this, but they did play a game in which Garland had like 9 assists and they both had like insane numbers. I think it was like they scored. Oh my gosh, I need to find this now. Anyways, they both had just like they both scored really well, and Garland had 9 assists, and that kind of seems what what the backcourt is meant to be. Besides that, besides Garland and Sexton, who I think are a really good backcourt, a really good young backcourt, I think Kevin Love, once again, it's another season of the Cavaliers telling us that they need to be getting 3 first-round picks for the Kevin Love, and everyone else in the league being like, yo, you should be giving us 3 first-round picks for taking that contract. So I don't know if he's ever going to get traded, but now that this team might actually be fighting for a playoff spot, he might actually be really valuable. He's like one of the few guys in the league that's 6'10", can rebound, and can shoot. Like people forget that he was really, really good for the Timberwolves, and he played a big part for the Cavs when they had LeBron and
Yeah, the
Kyrie.
contract just makes him hard to the contract makes him hard to move. If he was making, you know,
Yeah,
15 or 20, it'd be a lot easier, but
yeah. But I think like in terms of just this team, like they can use him. Like he's really good.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, Okoro seems like a good defender, and I felt like that was high at the moment. But now I guess it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like the DeAndre Hunter picks a couple years ago, where you're like, why are they drafting this guy so high? But when you look at the rest of the roster, yeah, it's a solid defensive wing that gets out and runs with your young team. Like it makes a lot of sense. I like that pick.
Makes sense.
Andre Drummond opting into your player option, probably not ideal for them, but then again, like it's an asset. He's going to play some minutes. He'll rebound for you. I don't know at this point how good Andre Drummond is. And then like JaVale McGee off the bench, that's good. Dante Exum is a fine backup point guard. People still hold out hope for Dylan Windler to kind of develop. I don't know about that. Jetty Osman is on a pretty manageable contract,
I
can be
don't mind
moved if
Osman. I don't
yeah,
mind
Osman's
Osman.
fine. I think he
A
can
little
be moved.
stretch, a little make some threes.
Yeah, there's not a lot of
I
like
think the way this team is built makes sense. I think it makes sense. You have Colin Sexton is the guy on this team. He's the guy you're going to ask him to score. You
yep.
have Garland to create a little bit of offense in the backcourt. Now, whether that backcourt can really sustain itself defensively, because it is a small backcourt, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I think you bring in a Okoro, who's a pretty good player, and makes sense with the other two guys you have around them. You have Kevin Love, who could be moved at some point, but also is pretty nice stretch, big man. And the Drummond piece, I think they kind of just took Drummond because they gave up basically nothing to get
Nothing.
him. Just
Yeah.
like a
No, that's fair.
second-round pick in John Henson. Like, You do that. You do that to get, a borderline all-star player who's going to try and anchor your defense for you. And then off the bench, you have Dante Exum, who, like, whatever. I mean, he could be something.
Yeah,
I kind of liked what Kevin Porter Jr. did last year. I think Osman, gives you something in that same vein. And then Larry Nance and JaVale McGee are good
yeah,
NBA big men. Like, those are athletic players who will play a
yeah,
role. And I think on this team, what I like a lot better than the other teams is, Drummond is an expiring contract. Love's contract is coming up pretty soon too. So you have cap space flexibility. You're not overpaying guys. You have a good mix of veterans and young players. Obviously, this is a young team that's going to struggle a lot defensively, but I think there's a world in which they could be kind of sniffing around the play-in game. And then if Garland can take another step forward in his kind of playmaking and offensive development, then you can kind of see, like, the makings of an NBA team here, and a team that could, compete for the bottom of the East. So I do kind of like what they're doing. I like what they're building here in Cleveland. And they've taken the smart route of building slow, not trying to go for the home run picks, not overpaying players like, the other teams in the bottom of the East have done. So I think the Cavs are, a team that's on the up and up. And while they're still going to have their struggles this year and they're probably not going to win any games, I think they're building something here with the two young guards and with the other pieces that they're adding around.
yeah. I think the biggest deal is that they've put infrastructure around to get the most out of Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. Like, this is the time for you to take a step. And just for the record, I finally found the game log. Sexton had 32 points and three steals, three assists. Shot pretty well. He shot 65% from the field and was 2 for
Was
3 on
this against the
threes.
Pistons?
Yeah, this was their last win against the
Okay.
Pistons, which, like, we take for what it is. But I mean, if you can beat up on bad teams, that's more than enough in the East to make the play, at least a playing game, right? Like, if you can beat the bad teams, that's enough to get you in the playing game. And Garland had 21 and 12 assists. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's really promising. And Garland didn't really show that last year at all. But he was then again injured and played only like 4 games at his one season at Vanderbilt coming out as a freshman. So I think just all in all, like, this is the best constructed team in this tier, and they are just putting all the other putting their best players in a good chance to succeed. And like you said before, they have a lot of room to make trades, and that might be big. If they feel like they can get, like, make a move for the 7th or 8th spot in the East, up like Kevin Love can be moved for real assets. Andre Drummond, if he plays well, which he had 23 and 16 points and 5 assists against the Pistons, could be moved for real assets. Like, this team, if John Collins, if Lauri Markkanen, if, like, all these players are distressed assets and looking to get moved, this is the team that they can move to. And the Cavs, I think, have a pretty good chance to make the playoffs in the East this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think Love and Drummond, you could probably look at getting, some other expiring contract and maybe like a heavily protected pick or two, which is like, that's a fine player. And if not, you have them there for like the veteran infrastructure. And Love is a solid player. He's
Yeah.
not a number one option on this team now, which I think is good. I think he should be the number three option, getting, spot up opportunities and getting some pick and pops with Sexton and Garland. Drummond, we know Drummond, I hope they don't start feeding him the ball in the post because we know what that is. But you have some pick and rolls with Drummond. You throw him some lobs and keep him happy. And if you need to move Drummond, you have Lance and McGee there who pretty much do the exact same thing that Drummond does,
Exactly.
just a little bit
Yeah.
less. So I think this is a fine team. I think they're a year away from making the playoffs probably, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were sniffing around the bottom of the East in the play-in tournament. I wouldn't be that if Sexton and Garland can both, take a step up in their development. So I
Yeah.
don't mind this team at all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree. I agree 100%.